Happy birthday, baby. It's my wife's birthday today. 6/6 of 66. Today I wanted to talk about, I believe, the difference between a disciple and a believer. And it says in Jesus over and over again throughout the Gospels, he says, and Jesus said to them, whoever wants to be my disciple, or whosoever wants to be my disciple, or whoever wants to follow me, he must deny himself, pick up his cross, and follow me. The one who tries to hold on to his life will lose it, but the one who lays down his life for my sake in the gospel will find it. Right? That's a disciple. A believer is, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he is who he says he is, right? And then a disciple is a follower of Jesus' way. And then that's laying down of that self-life in order to live a different way, a kingdom way of living, rather than the way that we've always done it, is a life centered in self. Because of, unless you're in that posture of laying down of your self-life, you're missing out on the beauty of kingdom life. You're missing out on experiencing the fruit of the Spirit in your life. You're missing out on experiencing the peace of God within. Because you can have peace with God, but experiencing the peace of God is something different, because that comes from a submitted life to him. And then you start living a life centered in him rather than in you. You start living a life centered in the Spirit rather than in the flesh. Because we come into the world apart from the love of God, apart from being connected to the Spirit of God, and then we submit our life to God. We experience the fullness of the life that he has for us instead of what we've been settling for in the past, which is a life centered in self. That's why he's saying, to be my disciple, you need to deny yourself and pick up your cross and follow me. The one who tries to hold on to his life will lose it, but the one who lays down his life. And that's what Paul's talking about over and over again in the Pauline epistles. He's talking about, for I've been crucified with Christ. That life that he used to live that was centered in self, even in religion we could be centered in self. But in the kingdom, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Right? It's that submission of life. It's that experiencing his life through you. For I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. That's Paul's posture, and that's what Jesus is teaching his disciples. That there is a way of living that's different than anything you've experienced. I've come to turn everything on its head. And it's a beautiful way of living. We could believe in God, but have we truly submitted our life to God? And that's where the freedom comes in. The Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. It is for freedom that Christ has set you free. Stand firm then, and do not commit again to a yoke of slavery. That yoke of slavery of going back into the law, which was rooted in self, because they were trying to show themselves approved by their moral behavior instead of just laying down their self-life and experiencing him to him and being transformed more and more into his image. That's where the freedom comes in. That's where the beauty of kingdom life comes in. Because it's not about you. It's about him through you and in you. And it's about laying down of the self-life and experiencing something so beautiful, right? But we only experience the fruit of the Spirit once we do, when we come to that place of saying, God, I'm yours. A lot of times I was in a posture of, God, help me. But it wasn't until I got to the point of saying, God, I'm yours. And then just that constant pursuit of him. And Paul, it's a pursuit. So Paul says, not that I've attained, but I press on towards the goal. So it's that posture of continuing to submit and surrender his life to God in the process of everything. And that's where we experience the beauty of relationship and sonship with God, of understanding how much we're loved by him. And it's about us being transformed more and more into his image, so then we don't get offense to people that don't see things the same way. Whereas in religion, that's why there's all these walls and all this garbage in between denominations and all that stuff. They're missing out on the beauty of relationship and sonship with God. Because it says that in John 13:35, it says, they will know that you are my disciples by the way that we love one another. So the fruit from the disciples' life was love. Love for God and love for each other. So if you are seeing someone that says that they're a Christian, I believe that they're a believer, but are they a disciple? If they're a disciple, love will be flowing out of their life, right? Not dissension, not tearing down anyone else. They're just continuing to love unconditionally because they've experienced the love, grace, and mercy of God, and then it flows from their life. That's freedom. That's where the beauty happens. Then no matter what, you get to be the fragrance of his love wherever you go. You get to radiate his love because you've experienced it in your own life, and you become free from the bondage of self. And then you're not in the posture of needing love. You're able to truly just become it. Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful place to be. 44 years bondage to self. 7.5 years, almost 8, in freedom. Beautiful. And it's becoming more and more free in the process. So submit your life to God. If you want to be my disciple, deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me. If you don't, you don't. That's the beautiful free will choice that we have. God loves you and wants the absolute best for your life. He wants to adopt you as sons and daughters of God. He wants you to experience freedom like never before. Freedom from needing that person in your life to somehow be complete. Needing to run to drugs or alcohol or pornography or anything in order to feel complete in the moment, which has shame and guilt and self-condemnation on the backside. Instead, you just can be complete in him, being filled with his love, mercy, and grace, and then that can flow from your life. Beautiful place to be. So the difference between a believer and a disciple. God bless y'all.